you can't imagine the noise of the earthquake. You know, it just was deafening, the sound. An expression that I had read previous was it sounded like it came from the bowels of the earth, and essentially that's what happened. It was just so loud. I'm Gloria McAlister, and I have lived in Valdez 71 consecutive years, and I'm 80. I turned 18, I graduated high school, I got married, I had a baby boy on Valentine's Day, and 6 weeks later to the day, we survived a 9.2 earthquake, which lasted for 5.5 minutes. And the next month I turned 19. So, I was at home peeling potatoes, getting ready to do potatoes and steak for dinner. My husband was supposed to be down on the dock, helping a friend unload some freight. The baby was cranky. Dinner was late, which was a good thing. And he came back, what was it, a week later, and threw the steaks and the potatoes in the garbage. So I was leaving by myself, and my husband held me in the house and he said, "You cannot go out there because of the electrical wires that are swinging and what have you, and the fact that the ground was opening and closing and opening and closing." And then he went and grabbed the baby, who was on a coffee table enjoying, you know, all being shaken. So we stood together in the doorway. And I know you said you interviewed Linda Guthrie, but her mother had an expression about when the nails cried. Oh my God. It's just the stress of the wooden structure, you know, as it's, you hear the nails screeching, straining, just awful. In music, there's two symbols, if I can say them and remember them correctly: crescendo and diminuendo, greater than and less than. And that is what was happening with our power. It would surge, and then it would go down, almost out, and then it would surge again. And the house was like that too. It seemed like opposite corners were lifting and pulling and screeching.
What else did you hear?
We had a Kingston Trio record on the stereo, and they were surging and pausing too. So, not that I could see anything. There was a 16-year-old girl who lived across the street, and she was out in this, I don't know if she was in the street or still in her front yard, but she was crying for her mother, and what's happening, you know, she would just terrify. And that went on for quite a while. So she was what I heard. Nobody was there to comfort her. It was pretty darn terrifying. After it stopped shaking, my husband grabbed his flashlight, you know, the big ones, and he says, "I've got to go downstairs and check the fuses." You know, that's always the big deal. And as he was going downstairs to do that, he counted the whistles that the Alaska steamship made, and I thought it was 7. It means, give me full power. And he said, "You know, if it's bad enough for the steamship to leave, it's bad enough for us to leave." We went out and got in the pickup that belonged to the contractor he was working for. In the old town, we had at least 2 sewer creeks that ran the length of the town, and at one time they had all been active. So on our street, looking down, the sewer creek was up. I don't know how this happened, the pressure or something. Anyway, the culvert had raised about 4 feet out above the ground. And so we went straight up, and the next street, the sewer creek was up about 3 feet. And then the next street, it was up 2 feet. And finally, we got to the street where it was only up about a foot. And all this time, we're in the contractor's pickup, and you know, you're going over these cracks, and the bottom is dragging. The bottom of the pickup is dragging on the rocks. You knew this wasn't a good sound, and then you go over that 1 foot hump, and anyway, then we went across town and got to my mother's house, and she was fine, a little bit terrified. My dad and my brother were in Anchorage on 4th Avenue. As we were going over to my mother's house, we ran into 2 people, Maxwell's and I think Mr. Scott, the science teacher, and my husband said, "Max, what's happening?" And he said, "It's an earthquake, the docks are gone, get your mother-in-law and get out of town." So we had no idea what had happened down there. We were about a half mile out of town, and the Union oil tank exploded. Boy, it was the most beautiful fireworks you'd ever want to see. I mean, it just lit up everything, and you know, that was part of the problem that happened afterwards. Was the oil was on top of the water, the oil was on fire, the tide came in. I think there were 5 businesses that were burned out from the oil on the water. I didn't tell you about my angels.
Let's hear about the angels.
My husband was going downstairs to check those fuses, and he's counting the boat whistles, and I'm at the front windows looking for chariots and angels, and because I figured revelations has come to pass, you know, and they weren't in the front yard. And then I went and looked out the window in the backyard, and they weren't in the backyard, so had to cancel out revelations coming to pass. But it took me 10 years before I could tell anybody that. You know, when you bare your soul, it's just so hard.